If you're tired of fighting your way through the same pain, the same anxiety, the same overwhelm, just to get through the day, it may be time to stop fighting it and start listening to what it's trying to tell you. Welcome to the Pathway Back, a journey of reconnecting with your wholeness, reclaiming your worth, and restoring your peace. I'm Shelley, founder of Haven for Inner Stillness, where I help you create meaningful change without forcing, fixing, or fighting yourself. If you're at a place where you feel like you can't keep doing what you've been doing, you can't keep hurting like this and trying to push your way through it. You can't keep getting pulled into the same emotional reactions, shutting down, overthinking everything, or becoming so overwhelmed by fear, anger, hurt, or anxiety that it takes over everything else. You can't keep reacting in ways you regret later, avoiding the decisions, the conversations, or the changes you know you need to make. And you can't keep watching the same patterns show up in your relationships, your work, and the way you live. Maybe you're exhausted from being the strong one, the smart one, or the one who holds everything together. Maybe you've reached the point where doing what you've always done just isn't working anymore. You know something has to change. You just don't know how. Or maybe you can't fully explain what's wrong. You just know you don't want to keep living this way. That can feel like a breaking point, not necessarily because everything is falling apart, although it might feel like it is, but because something has become too painful, too heavy, or too exhausting to fight your way through it. But what if your breaking point isn't the end? What if it's a sign that it's time to change direction, like a turning point? It's not a sign you need to give up. You may just need another way. I know that may be hard to hear when you're tired, feeling discouraged, and not sure you have anything left to give. When you feel like you've hit a wall, the thought of pressing on can feel like more effort than you have in you, especially when nothing seems to be changing. You may not be feeling like there even is a way forward. You're still trying to come to terms with where you are. The end of a relationship you thought would last. The life you don't have that you thought you would. A version of yourself you barely recognize anymore. The patterns you can't seem to change. Or the things you've missed out on because of fear. And that can be a scary place to be because you don't only feel stuck, you feel lost. You don't know where to go or what to do next. That's what happened to me. I was hurting for a long time. I just felt empty and alone. Like I wasn't important or like I didn't matter. And I kept trying to find a way to ease that pain with a new relationship, a new location, a new career, or a new version of myself. But none of it made a difference. None of it worked out the way I'd wanted, and I was still hurting. And at the same time, I had responsibilities. I had 3 daughters who were counting on me. So I tried to stay strong, be dependable, and not let anyone down. I pushed through it. I kept going. I kept doing what needed to be done. But inside, I was falling apart. And eventually, pushing through stopped working, and I hit that wall. I just couldn't do it anymore. I broke. I shut down. I became physically sick and I couldn't work. So I lost my home, my car, my independence, everything I had been fighting to hold on to. It wasn't pretty. And at that point, there was no place left to run. I couldn't avoid it anymore. I had to face my pain head on. And you know what? That was the best thing that ever happened to me. Of course, it didn't feel that way at the time, but in the end, that breaking point became my turning point because for the first time, I stopped trying to escape the pain and started trying to understand it. I started looking at what it was showing me, all the places where I had abandoned myself to keep someone else, all the ways I had adjusted myself to feel loved, accepted, or worthy, the things I had tolerated because standing up for myself felt harder than staying quiet, putting up with it, or the risk of being rejected. I saw how fear had led my decisions, the choices I made, and the things I didn't say or do. And the more I began to understand my pain, the more I began to understand myself. And you know what stood out to me the most was seeing that I had handed everyone and everything else the power to tell me what I was worth, whether someone loved me, chose me, approved of me, whether I succeeded, whether things worked out the way I had hoped. Everything had a say in who I was, except me. I had been pulled so far away from myself that I no longer knew the truth of who I was. And I realized that's what was missing. That's why I felt so broken, so empty. And that's why nothing I did could ever fill that void. I had lost my sense of self while trying to hold on to everything outside of me that I thought would make me feel whole. So I began looking within. I began reconnecting with the deeper part of myself that I had lost touch with, my soul self. I began discovering the truth of who I was at the soul level. And that's where I began finding the wholeness that I had been searching for everywhere else. That's when my pain began to fade. And that's where I found a peace that didn't depend on someone or something else giving it to me. That's what a breaking point can do. It can bring you face to face with what you may not have been ready to see before, what you've been tolerating, what you've been settling for, where fear has been holding you back, what you've been trying to prove, and what you've been asking someone else to validate about who you are. Most importantly, it can show you how far you may have drifted away from yourself while looking for the love, worth, or peace that can only be found within. So if you feel like you're at your breaking point, this could be your turning point. It may feel like you're losing yourself, but it can also become the beginning of finding the way back to yourself. Because when you're grounded in your own worth from within, you stop depending on everything outside of you to prove it to you. When your worth is no longer tied to who chooses you, how you're treated, what works out, or what happens next, what you tolerate changes, what you choose changes, and the way you handle decisions, relationships, uncertainty, and the things that come up in your life begins to change more naturally because you're moving from your own center instead of from what you're afraid to lose. or from what you're trying to prove. If you're there, if you're ready to stop fighting your way through the same pain, the same fears, and the same patterns, and you'd like another way through, I've taken everything I've learned through my own journey back to wholeness and put it together as a pathway you can follow to begin finding your way back to yourself. Pathway Back to Wholeness is a 90-day private coaching program where I help you understand what's been keeping you stuck, how to reconnect with your worth from within, and begin creating shifts in the places that feel emotionally heavy, overwhelming, or where you've been struggling to change. This is a pathway you can continue to return to whenever pain, fear, or old patterns begin trying to pull you away from yourself. You'll find more information in the episode description. You might feel like you're at your breaking point, but there is a way through. The pathway back begins when you stop running from your pain and start listening to it. Until next time, right here with you on the pathway back.